What if I told you a NASA intern once stole $21 million worth of moon rocks to impress his girlfriend? Yep, and yes, it's a real story. In 2002, Thad Roberts, his girlfriend Tiffany, and some accomplices were interns at NASA's Johnson Space Center. Together, they pulled off one of the strangest crimes in space history, because that's what you do when you get a prestigious internship. They literally broke into NASA's Lunar Sample Lab and stole a 600-pound safe containing 17 pounds of moon rock samples brought back from every Apollo mission. Yeah, because where was NASA security? And after dating Tiffany for 3 weeks, Roberts, who's literally the definition of if he wanted to, he would, Thad had this wonderful idea. What if I could give her the moon? I mean, that would be romantic, right? They had badges, they had access, they worked at NASA, so why not steal moon rocks? Well, here's the part that people don't usually think about. The Lunar Sample Lab was designed to protect the moon from Earth, not Earth from Earthlings. So security focused on contamination, sterile handling, and biological containment. You know, NASA stuff. Not love-struck interns with badges. So on the day of the heist, they wore neoprene bodysuits to fool the thermal sensors. They tampered with security cameras and physically hauled out the 600-pound safe from one of the most secure labs in the world. Cue Ocean's 11. And somehow, it didn't stop there. In what might be the most strange and more baffling romantic gesture in history, Roberts and Tiffany took the moon rocks to the hotel room, spread them out on the bed, and yes, they did you-know-what on the moon rocks. Priceless artifacts from Apollo. Like, what? Well, maybe this might be funny if it hadn't permanently destroyed irreplaceable science, but once those samples touched a hotel bedspread, they were ruined. Like millions of years of history gone. Because moon rocks, they're not souvenirs. They're literally priceless artifacts that tell about time and space history. Each sample tells us how the moon formed, how the Earth evolved, and what the early solar system looked like. Some of these rocks were never even meant to be studied right away. They were to be preserved for future generations, waiting for tools that don't even exist yet to examine them. Well, once the samples were contaminated, they didn't just lose value, they lost scientific purpose. Scientists could no longer trust where they came from, because definitely, Thad's, you know what, you can rebuild hardware. You cannot replace Apollo samples. And so after that, guess what they tried to do? They decided that the best thing to do would be to sell the moon rocks online, which is an interesting choice because apparently they don't know that the FBI is also online. And moon rocks, which are US government property, are not permitted to be sold. They cannot be owned. And so the moment that one appears for sale, authorities are alerted. And so the story goes, a collector tipped off the FBI, and federal agents set up a sting in Orlando, posing as buyers. Thad shows up with Tiffany, and we all know how that went. Roberts pled guilty and was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. Tiffany and an accomplice received house arrest and community service. And no, the relationship did not survive. Turns out stealing is not a great foundation for love. Fun fact, the story was later told in a book titled You Know What on the Moon, which still somehow sounds fake.